BYD has found its feet in Australia with a range of electric cars, but you might not know the company is also a leader in plug-in hybrid technology, which accounted for half its global sales last year. So meet the BYD Sealion 6, a mid-size family SUV that's the company's first plug-in hybrid car in Australia. It's designed to go up against the heavyweights of this class, vehicles such as the Toyota RAV4, Mitsubishi Outlander and Honda CR-V. Does it have the goods to compete? Let's find out. BYD calls its plug-in hybrid technology DMI, combining a small petrol engine with a large electric motor and battery pack for close to 100 kilometers of claimed electric driving range and a total driving range in hybrid mode of more than 1,000 kilometers, according to BYD. There are two models in the BYD Sealion 6 range. We're testing the base front-wheel drive dynamic, priced from $48,990 plus on-road costs, which with metallic paint equates to about $52,700 drive away in New South Wales. Standard features include 19-inch alloy wheels, LED headlights, panoramic sunroof, 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster, a rotating 15.6-inch touchscreen with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, heated and ventilated power-adjustable front seats, and synthetic leather look upholstery. So the interior of the Sealion is not quite as extroverted or outlandish as some of BYD's electric cars. By no means is this a conservative space. It's actually quite an interesting and quite a modern cabin design. Now this black and brown synthetic leather look upholstery is the only option in this base model dynamic. If you go for the premium, you can get a blue and grey colour scheme if this isn't to your liking. I quite like it. I know brown leather is not for everyone. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Now in terms of this driving position, I do sit quite high in the car and there's really good visibility out the front as well as out the sides, but it is a little bit limited out the back because it's got a letterbox style window. So it's not the worst we've seen in this class, especially cars with coupe style roof lines that have a little bit less headroom in the back and also less visibility out the rear as a result. These front seats are trimmed in this nice synthetic leather look material. Now to be honest, it's not that much worse than real leather. It feels really nice. It's quite soft and also quite comfortable too. These front seats are not the most supportive, but they are very, very comfortable and great on longer journeys. You've got 8-way power adjustment on the driver's side, 4-way power adjustment on the passenger side, no lumbar on either side though, which may not be to your tastes, but they are heated and ventilated and overall really, really nice seats. They've got this cool kind of sporty design with red accents on them as well. I really, really quite like them. Now the steering wheel is covered in a similar synthetic leather look material. Again, not as nice as real leather, but it's not too bad either. And you've got this little gear shifter, which is a small design, not a traditional T-bar shifter, but it's sort of meant to look like the crystal shifter in a BMW or a more expensive kind of car like that. It's a little R&D stalk. You get used to it after a while. It does become second nature dealing with its small size and this dedicated button for park. Now in terms of materials and build quality, it's actually quite a pleasant surprise in here. Everything you touch, or at least most of the things you touch, are a sort of leather-like material on the center console here, the center armrest, as well as the doors, these grab handles, as well as the armrest. It's quite good in that regard. In terms of build quality, at least perceived build quality, this car only has 800 Ks on the clock, so we'll have to see how it stands up if you buy one of these over the course of ownership, but it all feels very rock solid. There is no obvious shaking or rattling or anything obvious in this cabin. It's all really well pulled together, and to be honest, we've driven plenty of cars from Japan and South Korea and even Europe recently that aren't as well built, at least on the surface and what it seems, as this BYD. That's really impressive. This infotainment screen is 15.6 inches across. It's about as big as infotainment screens get in new cars today, at least at this price point. Now the system itself is based on Android, so it's super fast, super easy to use. Also the screen is really high resolution as well. Now as with most BYDs, it has a rotating function, so I can press a button on the infotainment screen or on the steering wheel and it flips from landscape to portrait. Look, it's a bit of a gimmick, and in Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is probably what you're going to be using most of the time you're driving this car, it only runs in landscape mode. But still, it's a cool feature, it's good to show off to your friends, and I'm sure it does have a use at some point. In terms of features, it's got wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto, built-in sat-nav, AM, FM, digital radio, all those kind of things. Everything we expect of a new car in 2024 at this kind of price. Now, I will say there is one problem with this screen. All the climate controls are built into the touchscreen and there are no physical shortcuts of any form. Now, that's okay when you're just using the built-in sat-nav or something like that, because you do have a row of shortcuts along the bottom here that are accessible via this main screen. However, when you're in Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, there's no home button to return from that system to the main menu. So say if you're on Waze or Google Maps on Apple CarPlay and you want to go back to change the temperature, it's at least 5 clicks return trip. You got to go from your mapping app to the main screen, back to the main screen of the BYD system, change what you want to change, and then reverse that process. It's just unnecessarily distracting and quite frustrating. I really wish BYD added a dedicated home button so you can just go back to the main screen, or physical climate controls and knobs. That's so much easier to use than going through this touchscreen. Now, there are some workarounds. You can go through the instrument cluster to change your fan speed and air temperature, but again, that's not a perfect solution, and that still does require time off the road looking at the dials. And also, you can use the voice assistant, which you can activate with Hi BYD. So there you go, activated right now. But again, that disrupts the flow of audio in the car. If you're having a conversation or listening to some music, it's just unnecessarily annoying, and I don't know what was wrong with a button or a dial like cars have done for many, many years. Now, are we blowing this out of proportion? Is it really a big deal for you? Would it be a deal breaker for you buying this car? Let us know in the comments below. In front of me here is a 12.3-inch instrument display that shows all the things you expect: speed, kilowatts of power the vehicle is currently using, trip computer data, all that kind of stuff. I will say the graphics do look quite nice, but it is on the basic side, and it can't show much beyond trip data or the climate controls I just mentioned or anything like that. There's no full screen map function or much beyond just the basic stuff. There is a cool acceleration timer, but I don't really know what the point of that is in a family SUV like this, but hey, it's a cool feature, why not? You don't get a head-up display in this model, that's only for the top of the range premium. Other than that, this interior really isn't lacking anything in terms of amenities. You've got dual zone climate control, panoramic sunroof, you've got these dual wireless phone chargers here that do work really well in our testing, super reliable and don't drop out or make the phone too hot. One USB-A and one USB-C port, as well as a 12-volt socket down here in this storage area. Some ambient lighting on the dash and on the doors. A 10-speaker Infinity sound system, which does deliver pretty good audio quality, I'd say, as well as keyless entry and start. Now, in terms of storage, you've got a decent-sized glove box with a fair amount of space. Got a really large center storage bin, which is great for storing valuables and things like that. You also get this cool little glass breaking tool that allows you to break the glass in case of an accident to get out of the car in a hurry. That's a nice little thing to see. You've got a sunglass holder above me here. I've also got 2 cup holders as well as some space in the doors. And there's also some space under the center console where those USB ports are, but it's a bit hard to access. Where my knee sits sort of blocks the space, and you kind of have to contort your body around it to kind of get anything big out of there. It's a bit of an odd space, though it is nice to have it, and I suspect you'll put things there that you don't intend to move that often. All right, let's head to the back. The first thing you'll notice back here is space is really, really good. I've got great knee room behind this driver's seat. This car is actually quite long by medium SUV standards, so it is really good in terms of interior passenger space. Good headroom as well under this glass roof, though tow room is a little bit limited. This seat is in my driving position. I'm at 6'1", and I've got it quite low as well, so there's not a whole lot of room under that front seat. And I will say under thigh support is not fantastic either. You can see my legs are kind of perched up off the seat base. Not the best because the floor is a little bit high. Now, these seat backs also do recline with a little strap on the right hand side. You can see, tilt them back or move them further forward. Quite a nice feature. They don't have a sliding function. We can move the backrest front and back like some cars in this class do. Now, in terms of amenities, you've got map pockets on both front seats, one USB-A and one USB-C port, rear air vents, as well as a fold-down center armrest with a pair of cup holders. We've also got bottle holders in the doors, as well as some really nice materials back here. It's common in cars like this at this kind of price point that the materials are soft at the front, but do get quite hard and scratchy at the back. Not the case here. You've got sort of softish material on top of the doors, as well as some really nice padded armrests, the same leather-like material on the doors, grab handles as well. And overall, it is very nice. Really impressed by how well finished this interior is, and quite roomy as well. Though again, as I said, with tow room and underfly support, it's not perfect. All right, check out the boot. Opening up the boot of the Sealion 6, you've got a powered tailgate to get into it, which is quite nice. We'll say this tailgate, when it opens, it's a little bit low. I'm 6'1", and I find my head sort of banging into it there. But it is a pretty big space. It's a bit of a load lip in terms of the height getting into the boot, and it is a pretty wide and pretty square space. It's quite easy to load things in. Now, under this cargo cover here, there's not much in the way of underfloor storage. There's a little bit of space to put small items, but not a whole lot. There's no spare wheel. There's only a puncture repair kit, which is quite common in plug-in hybrid cars, so it is a little bit annoying if you plan on taking this car into the country very often. What it does mean is this bag of charging cables sort of has to float around in the boot and fight for space with your luggage. It's not the best if you plan on loading this car up and taking it on a weekend away. We've got some space on the side of the boot as well as some illumination. There's no 12-volt sockets, and there's not much in the way of amenities back here. But overall, it's quite a nice space. You've got retractable cargo cover. Got a 60/40 split folding rear seat. They don't fold completely flat, but it is pretty close and good enough for loading longer items. All right, let's head to the driving. BYD claims 2 fuel consumption figures for the Sealion 6 Dynamic. 1.1 litres per 100 kilometres when the battery is between 25 and 100% charge, and 4.8 litres per 100 kilometres when the battery has less than 25% charge. That is because when the battery is close to full, the car consumes more electrical energy than it recharges to help reduce fuel consumption. But when the battery runs low, it needs to call on the petrol engine more often to propel the vehicle, which increases fuel use. The trip computer in BYDs is tricky to use as you can only choose between consumption over the last 50 kilometres or since the car was delivered. However, we saw energy use of about 6 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometres and fuel consumption of about 3 to 4 litres per 100 kilometres over the test period, and charging the battery from an office wall box twice, with the engine recharging at other times. In electric mode, we saw energy consumption in city driving equivalent to a 120 kilometre electric driving range when fully charged, which is in line with BYD's claim of 92 kilometres when only using 75% of the battery. Meanwhile, with a depleted battery, fuel consumption was in the region of 5 to 6 litres per 100 kilometres. The Sealion 6 requires 95 octane premium unleaded as a minimum, which adds to running costs. Alright, on the road in the Sealion 6, and it's here where some of the shine does start to come off this car. Now it has a 145 kilowatt electric motor and a 72 kilowatt petrol engine, which means it's that electric motor doing most of the work of driving. You only really hear the petrol engine when you really do need a burst of power. Now, that battery pack, 18 kilowatt hours, it does burn energy faster than it replenishes it, as with most plug-in hybrids. But performance is quite perky. You get that instant response we've come to expect from electric cars, and 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 8.5 seconds, as tested on our stopwatch, is pretty good for a car of this size. It's not particularly fast, it's not a performance car, but by no means is it slow or underpowered in any way. Now as for the ride, suspension is tuned to be very soft, hitting a speed bump now, and it irons it out well and just sort of floats over the top of it. However, it does come at the cost of composure when you're going at high speeds or on a country road. There's quite a lot of body roll, even for a mid-size SUV that's not trying to be a sports car. And when you hit undulations in the road or particularly nasty stretches of tarmac, the body does sort of wallow and move around. It's not the most confidence-inspiring. And there are plenty of other SUVs, both hybrid and electric, that have almost the same level of comfort over bumps around town, manage to do much better in terms of feeling composed and settled and tied down when you're going at speed on a country road, when you want the car to feel confident and corner with good abilities. That's also not helped by the steering, which is a little bit vague on centre, and you find yourself approaching corners and needing to turn the wheel more than you expect. And that does translate on the highway, where small corrections to try and center the car in the lane do turn into quite big movements of the wheel. It just needs more effort from the driver than you really should. Again, another area for improvement, though I will say it is light at parking speeds. It's 3 turns from lock to lock, which is okay. So you're not twirling the wheel too much, but yeah, overall not great. We really wish BYD made it a bit more direct and a bit quicker steering on center. The tyres are another weakness for this car. They're giddy comfort tyres, and they don't really like being driven with any sort of speed into a corner, and they're also not great on the brakes either. We recorded 100 km an hour to 0 stop in about 42 metres, which is up there with double cab diesel utes, not mid-sized family SUVs that pull up in 39 to 40 metres. Now, you're not going to notice that day to day, but when you need to pull up in an emergency to prevent a collision, that's when it matters. This has been a common criticism of BYD since they launched in Australia a couple of years ago. They have a history of putting non-name brand tyres on their cars. Atlas Batmans on the first Atto 3s, Ling Longs on the Dolphin, just room for improvement there, and something like a Michelin or a Continental or a name brand would really go a long way to improving this car's road holding abilities. In terms of the brake pedal feel, it is on the soft side, which some may like, others may not. And you've got 2 modes of regenerative braking, standard and high. I've left it on high during my time with this car, and I quite like higher regenerative braking setting, though no, not every driver will. There's no one pedal mode which brings the car to a full stop without you needing to touch the brakes, but that's quite common in plug-in hybrids. It's more of an electric car thing. And it's not something BYD even offers on its fully electric vehicles. Now, I'd like to point out something we've noticed when filming this car today and doing a lot of back and forth and stop and start maneuvers. Is this shifter. It is easy to use once you get the hang of it, but it can be a bit unresponsive at times. You kind of put your foot on the brake, push in one direction, and it doesn't register your input. Maybe it's me doing something wrong, I don't know, but it's just not as intuitive as it really should be. It may just be a software calibration thing, or, as I said, human error. Now, the other area for improvement with this car is the advanced safety systems. Now, it does tick most of the boxes in terms of having the features, but the calibration is not the best. We had a false positive, as in a false activation of the autonomous emergency braking system, just going around a corner with a motorcycle parked on the shoulder, not in the car's way or anything, but the car thought it was a hazard and tried to slam on the brakes. The lane keep assist is a little bit jerky and can be a little bit too intrusive, for some people's liking, though it is better calibrated than some past BYDs we've driven. And the lane centering assist system is also a little bit jerky and need of more refinement. In trying to keep the center of the lane, it tends to wander a little bit left and right and bounce between the lane markings. More room for improvement there, and just more time spent calibrating that software and getting it right. We know other manufacturers can do it, so why not BYD? Overall, some work to be done in handling and some of the safety systems, but the hybrid system is great. It's a good handoff between petrol and electric. It doesn't really feel short on grunt. For most buyers, we're comfortable and easy to live with car day to day. So there you have it, the BYD Sealion 6. It might be its first hybrid in Australia, but the level of polish inside and out shows it's not the company's first hybrid globally. It's sharply priced, well equipped, spacious inside with lots of tech, it's perky on the road, and it's quite fuel efficient as long as you charge the battery. Now, it's not perfect. It's not the most dynamic thing to drive. The steering is a bit vague and the suspension is a little bit too soft for our liking. The safety tech needs some work and there are too many controls in the touchscreen, including the air conditioning. But overall, if a plug-in hybrid is right for you and you have the diligence and the means to charge this thing every night to get the best out of its battery, then the Sealion 6 might be a great fit for you and your family. If you enjoyed this video, please click like to stay updated with all of our latest videos. Hit subscribe. If you want to see what a competitor to this car is like, click the video above me now to watch a video of the Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid, which is what we think is our top pick in this plug-in hybrid mid-size family SUV class. And of course, to read the full review, the link in the description down below. Thanks for watching.